The laughter stopped. The studio lights flickered against the polished desk, reflecting the tension no one dared to name. Joy Behar's grin froze halfway through a sentence, her voice fading into an uneasy silence that wrapped around the room like smoke. The red light above the camera blinked twice, live, still rolling, and for the first time in years, Keanu Reeves wasn't smiling. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold but calm, the kind of calm that carries weight, not peace. Across the table, Joy's laughter tried to recover, but her tone cracked under the pressure. The audience, caught between amusement and confusion, waited for a cue that never came. Somewhere in the control room, a producer's hand hovered over the cut button, but even they knew. This was a moment you don't interrupt. Keanu's silence was louder than any argument, his presence filling the air with a kind of restrained fury that demanded attention. Every second stretched longer than the last. Someone coughed. A mug clinked, and then, with a slow, deliberate breath, Keanu lifted his eyes from the table and met Joy's gaze. The energy in the room shifted. It wasn't chaos, not yet, but the kind of quiet that always comes right before it. Cameras zoomed in, catching every twitch, every heartbeat of the unfolding storm. The red light didn't blink anymore. It burned, unwavering, capturing a moment too real for daytime television. And in that breath between words and reaction, one thought echoed across the studio. No one expected him to break. Not here, not live, not like this. Just minutes earlier, the studio had been filled with laughter and light. The hosts of The View were in their usual rhythm, playful banter, clever remarks, and that signature Joy Behar energy that could fill any silence. The cameras panned across smiling faces, the audience clapped on cue, and everything felt like just another lively morning show. Keanu Reeves had walked onto the stage with his gentle smile and quiet humility, the same calm aura that made millions adore him. He wasn't there for controversy. He was there to talk about hope, about kindness, healing, and a new film that carried his message of peace. But something felt off from the start. Joy's questions had a different edge that day, sharp, teasing, almost dismissive. She joked about his soft-spoken hero act, laughed at his serious tone, and brushed off his thoughtful answers as if they were scripted lines. Keanu smiled through it, as he always did, polite to a fault. Yet behind that calm exterior was a man who'd endured more pain than most, loss, loneliness, and years of being misunderstood. He had built his peace the hard way, and he guarded it quietly. As Joy pushed harder, her laughter filled the air again, but this time, it didn't sound right. The warmth of the studio lights started to feel harsh, almost invasive. A strange stillness crept in, the kind of energy that everyone feels but no one names. The audience sensed it too, their smiles fading as they glanced between the two. Keanu leaned back slightly, his hands folded, eyes steady but unreadable. And in that calm before the storm, no one realized the next few seconds would change the tone of the entire show, and the internet, forever. It happened in an instant, a single question that sliced through the air like a blade wrapped in a smile. Joy leaned forward, her tone dripping with playful sarcasm. "So, Keanu," she began, "do you ever get tired of playing the sad, brooding guy? Or is that just who you really are?" The audience chuckled lightly, unsure if it was meant as a joke or a jab. For a moment, Keanu didn't move. He just stared at her, expression unreadable, eyes dark and still. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy. You could feel the weight of it pressing down on everyone in the room. Then he smiled. But it wasn't the warm, kind smile fans knew. It was thinner, colder, restrained. He tilted his head slightly and replied, calm but razor sharp. "Do you ever get tired of making people feel small?" The room froze. The laughter stopped mid-breath. Joy's smirk faltered, her lips parting slightly as if to speak, but nothing came out. The air itself seemed to shift. A few audience members glanced around, confused, waiting for a punchline that never arrived. Even the co-hosts exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to step in or stay silent. For the first time, Keanu's voice carried something no one expected. Not anger, not aggression, but truth wrapped in control. Every syllable was deliberate, every pause intentional. "I've played sad men," he continued quietly, "because sadness teaches empathy. Maybe we could use more of that." The studio lights suddenly felt brighter, harsher, revealing discomfort in every corner of the room. Joy finally looked down, forcing a laugh, but her eyes betrayed her. The tension was no longer hidden. It had a pulse. And everyone watching knew. Something real had just begun. Joy Behar tried to laugh it off, her voice echoing awkwardly through the uneasy air. "Oh, come on, Keanu, it's just a question," she said, waving her hand as if to erase the moment. But Keanu didn't blink. His calm was disarming, almost eerie. "It's never just a question," he replied softly. "Not when it's meant to cut." The audience shifted in their seats. A few murmurs rippled across the room. The other hosts exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to jump in or let the storm unfold. Joy straightened in her chair, her tone sharpening. "This is the view, Keanu. We ask tough questions here." Her smile was tight, defensive. Keanu leaned forward slightly, his eyes locked on hers. "Tough questions are fine," he said, "as long as they come from curiosity, not mockery." The room went dead quiet. The warmth of the stage lights now felt suffocating. Even the producers behind the cameras froze, eyes darting toward the director for a cue that never came. Joy tried to reclaim her ground. "Well, I'm just doing my job," she fired back. Keanu nodded slowly, his tone steady but firm. "Then maybe it's time we rethink what that job means." His words landed like a weight, followed by a silence so deep that every small sound, the creak of a chair, the hum of a mic, felt amplified. Joy looked at him, unsure whether to argue or retreat. "You know," Keanu said finally, his voice low, "respect doesn't need applause. It just needs to exist." The audience erupted in a mix of gasps and awkward claps, torn between sides. And as the tension reached its breaking point, one thing became clear. This wasn't just another talk show moment. It was a reckoning, live and unfiltered. The control room was in chaos. Producers waved their hands, whispering frantically into headsets, trying to find a moment to cut to commercial. But no one on stage moved. The cameras stayed rolling, and every second felt longer than the one before it. Keanu sat back slowly, his eyes still fixed on Joy Behar, but the anger that once flashed in them had cooled into something quieter. Disappointment. Joy broke the silence first, her voice shaky, half a laugh, half a defense. "You really don't take a joke, do you?" she said, but the words landed flat, lifeless. Keanu took a deep breath and removed his microphone clip. The audience watched in stunned silence as he placed it gently on the table. "There's a difference between humor and humiliation," he said calmly. "And sometimes people forget where that line is." Joy's eyes darted toward the cameras, then to her co-hosts, searching for support, but none of them spoke. One reached for her coffee cup just to have something to do with her hands. The tension was unbearable. Keanu stood up, straightened his jacket, and glanced at the audience. "You invited me to talk," he said softly, "not to be laughed at." Then he gave a small nod, almost like a goodbye, and began to walk off the stage. The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay quiet, so they did both, a scattered wave of awkward applause echoing through the room. Joy sat frozen, her face pale under the bright lights. For the first time, the view didn't have a view, just silence. Keanu disappeared behind the curtains, leaving nothing but the sound of his footsteps. The red light above the camera finally dimmed, but the moment it had captured would not fade so easily. By the time Keanu stepped outside the studio, the internet was already on fire. Clips of the exchange spread across social media within minutes. Different angles, captions, slow-motion edits, each one twisting the story in a new way. One headline read, "Keanu snaps on live TV," while another defended him. "Keanu stands up for respect." The world had chosen sides before the credits even rolled. On one side were the fans, millions of them, flooding timelines with words like grace, strength, and dignity. On the other, the critics, calling him thin-skinned, overreacting, or too serious for daytime TV. News outlets replayed the clip on loop, slowing down every look, every pause, every breath. The studio released a short statement calling it a misunderstanding, but no one was buying it. Something real had happened, and the audience could feel it. Joy Behar avoided interviews for a week, while Keanu vanished completely. No press, no social posts, no comments. Just silence. That silence said more than any interview ever could. The moment had turned into a movement. People were suddenly talking about respect, about empathy, about how entertainment often blurs the line between humor and cruelty. Fans began posting old clips of Keanu helping strangers, giving away money, listening when no one else did. This, one viral post read, is the man who stayed calm when the world lost control. The story stopped being about a confrontation and became about something deeper, a reminder that kindness has limits, and even the quietest souls can reach a breaking point. The View had moved on to its next episode, but the echo of that day still lingered online, growing louder with every share, every comment, every person asking the same question. Who was really out of line? Weeks passed, but the moment refused to fade. Clips still surfaced, debates still flared, and yet, Keanu Reeves stayed silent. No interviews, no statements, no defense. Just the quiet calm of a man who didn't need to prove anything. He was seen once, leaving a cafe, nodding politely to a fan who whispered, "We're proud of you." He smiled, that soft, genuine smile the world knew, and walked away without a word. The View continued as usual, laughter returning, but something had changed. That silence still hung in the air, unspoken yet unforgettable. Some said he overreacted. Others said he finally showed the truth, that even the kindest souls have limits. But for those who truly watched, it wasn't about anger. It was about self-respect. It was about standing firm in a world that profits from noise. The clip became more than entertainment. It became a lesson, a reminder that decency doesn't shout, it simply stands its ground. And as the screen fades to black, only one thought remains. Sometimes, the calmest voice in the room is the one that changes everything.